welcome back to the channel. I'm back for another NINJAGO video. It has been a minute since I posted videos, but I'm here now and I'm ready to go again. Today, I will be talking about Crystalized because I finally finished watching it and it's a mess. But I still want to review it in its entirety, and this will not turn into a rant. I hope. In one word, Crystalized was lacking. Everything about it seemed mediocre at best and actually painful at worst. And as the final season, that's not good. Nothing seemed to be concluded by the end, and the writers made several distinct writing choices that made no sense, even in hindsight. Before I jump down this deep, dark hole, I want to address the positives this season had.
So what do you say? For Nia? For Nia.
Visually, this season was the best by far. From the small Lego expressions to the fast and furious fight scenes, I believe that this season was beautifully animated. The first few episodes of the season were also written very well story-wise. The setup of each of the ninja coming back from Nia's death, specifically the originals, was done very well. Kai becoming a teacher and trying to protect others by teaching them how to protect themselves was very strong, and I was ready to get behind it.
I'm preparing these kids for the real world. There's bad guys out there and they don't play fair.
Zane shutting off his emotions so that he could focus on the tasks at hand and not think about his lost friend was actually really sad and an interesting way for Zane to deal with loss.
I deactivated my emotion meter.
Jay's brief insanity threw me off at first, but after thinking about the events in Season 4, Tournament of Elements, it made sense. Back then, he tried to shrug off loss by throwing himself in the spotlight. Now, he would retreat behind the walls instead to cry. It was interesting to see the different ways Jay handled grief. Even with Cole, though his story wasn't as dramatic, still was able to motivate the team to get back together, which reminded me of his leadership skills in the team back in seasons 1 and 2. Basically, my positive takeaways from the season are mostly from episode 1 and earlier episodes, but it did such a good job setting up the season. Garmadon was not bad in the season either. I believe the writers actually did a really good job conveying that this Garmadon is a completely new character with new thoughts and a new way of thinking, but that he's still the son of the first Ninjutsu Master and the brother of Wu. Making it a point for Garmadon never to really call Lloyd his son, but to still refer to Wu as his brother was also very interesting. However, though I really like these different dynamics in the season, there's just so much that's went wrong. There's a lot to unpack here. But if I tried to dump it all onto this one video, we would be here for literal hours. Instead, we're going to just break this section down into my major key problems for the season, and I'll try to avoid all the nitpicky stuff, or like I said, we're going to be here for literal hours. And my first big problem of the season is...
An ending is really a new beginning.
Harumi, awaken.
Why did this character come back? Why? I can find literally no real reason for this other than fan service. Ending her story in season 9 Hunted was the perfect place for her story to end because it left her redemption arc as a bit of a question. When she saved that family from the crumbling building, did she do it only because she saw herself in them? Or did she honestly regret her actions? We really didn't know, and I really liked seeing her story end there as a bit of a question. This character did not deserve to come back. And the Overlord choosing to bring her back to life is so dumb. I'm sorry. We'll get to the Overlord in a moment. Every scene Harumi is in is painful in every context. Her personality shifts from episode to episode, and her own stance on the issue of serving the Overlord makes, again, no sense. She said she'd serve him, she won't. She loves Lloyd, no she doesn't. It's very hard to follow her. Speaking of Lloyd, their relationship is just strange. Throughout Crystalized, I began to dread every episode that had a couple of Harumi-Lloyd moments. They just felt so gross.
Oh, am I in your head? Are you thinking about me? Well, I'm thinking about you. About how things could have been different between us. We can still be together. If you come back with me and surrender to the Crystal King, I can get him to spare your life. You can get off me now.
I'm not on you. You're on me.
I won't do it again. I think we're past that. You just saved my life. Truce?
I can't cheer or boo this relationship while watching it. It's just gross, and I want to run away from it. I know that Harumi is supposed to be the one who is manipulative and abusive, But this is just another level of nope. The way they go back and forth in a sort of will they, won't they, just doesn't work in this context. Also, when did Harumi ever have feelings for Lloyd?
And now the green ninja has escaped.
Forgive me, my lord.
You should have destroyed him when you had the chance, but I see now that you still have feelings for him.
No, Lloyd. There was never anything between us. It hurts, doesn't it? There's nothing more powerful than a blow to the heart.
That fact was made very clear in seasons 8 and 9. Harumi never felt anything for him except hatred. She had been using him from the very start and had never once ever been shown to have feelings for him. Not once! So why does she suddenly have conflict with this now? This is never explained. Also, maybe this is a little bit nitpicky, but I felt that after she turned against the Overlord, Harumi should have died instantly. When the Overlord tries to recruit her, he said that he could bring her back to life, but only if she served him. In my mind, I took that as, you serve me, you live. You betray me, and you will die. Not just as a threat, but literally, she will die. The Overlord's own spirit was keeping her alive, so if she turned against her own life source, the connection would fail and she would die. This idea was further fueled by the conversation Harumi had with Lloyd in the cave.
So direct your anger at me, not everyone else. I know you don't want innocent people hurt.
You know nothing about me.
Suddenly, it seemed like the Overlord's spirit took over her mind and body and make her say the things she said. She and the Overlord were connected now, even in life and death. But this idea seems to be totally wrong by the end of the season. Harumi's body doesn't seem to be taken over again, and when she betrays the Overlord, nothing bad happens to her because of it. Are you telling me that there is no connection between these two characters? Did he not literally give her life? Speaking of Harumi's betrayal, this is not a redemption. Just because she finally decided to fight the Overlord instead of the ninja does not mean she has redeemed herself or even started to redeem herself. She has learned nothing. She still gave into her hatred and rage and continued to seek out revenge. She just directed it towards another source.
You took my parents! You took everything from me!
Again, this is not growth. Harumi as a character has not changed. She still believes that the good and just are weak, and anger and evil is the only way to succeed.
Your noble ideals and your foolish hopes, what did they get you? Clearly, because you are trusting and gullible and weak, which is why you are bound to lose. You don't have to pretend with me. You're part Oni, like your father, Garmadon. That's the strong part.
She still hasn't accepted the death of her parents or even begun the journey. She still terrorized an entire city, killing hundreds, and resurrected the evil Lord Garmadon. She was so deep in her pain, she had lost sight of her goal. Her mission to avenge her parents and protect Ninjago with a higher, stronger, evil power turned into a mindless rout of pain. Just because she turned all of that onto the Overlord instead of the ninja does not mean she's redeemed. But the ninja accept her as a friend with little or no questions because she's a good guy now and we need to wrap up the season.
It's okay. She's with us.
Man, this character's story is so bad, I'm sorry. This did not mean to turn into a rant, so to end this section, I will try to think of something positive this character did in this season. I literally can't think of anything I enjoyed with this character. Every single time she was on screen, I just wanted her gone. So let's just move on.
Did you truly think you could defeat me? Your powers were a gift from me.
Okay, so the Overlord.
I have returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
This is such a boring villain, especially to be the final villain for the entire show. With this new season, the writers added nothing new with the character. Well, not really. They make him become Ninjago's version of Palpatine, but I just found that to be really uninteresting. In fact, it makes the entire Ninjago storyline so much worse. Wu's been carrying around the guilt of being the one who turned Garmadon into what he is, ever since he threw that katana over the monastery wall when they were young. Now it's just, nope, the Overlord already planned to attack Garmadon. The efforts of Pythor in season 1, nope, just the Overlord moving the pieces in the background. The direct parallel between Star Wars and Ninjago has always been apparent with Darth Vader and Garmadon and Lloyd, but having
Somehow Palpatine returned.
having the Overlord moving all the pieces around since the beginning is kind of just meh, in my opinion, and just didn't feel earned at all.
It was I who possessed the serpent that bit your hand. It was I who corrupted the Great Devourer and set him against you. All that happened was by my design.
The Overlord is still the same Overlord at the end of the day. Just plain evil, with no other motives. And it's boring. His motives are, he's evil. His goals are, to be evil. Just cut and dry, two-dimensional villain. When I heard that they were bringing back the Overlord to be the final boss in this season, I was excited to get a better understanding of the character and his motivations. Who is the Overlord really? Where did he come from? Why does he want to destroy Ninjago so bad? I suppose I got an answer. He is the embodiment of all evil that exists in Ninjago and thus can never be destroyed and only lives to destroy. I'm sorry, this makes no sense to me. Why would they bring back a character and literally change nothing about who he is? Also, I felt like he did pretty much nothing throughout the season except send out his followers from time to time. Oh, and he floats around like Namor from Wakanda Forever. It's like they tried to recreate the storyline from season 2, but just made it so much worse. Also, his lines throughout the season can be matched up so perfectly with lines from season 2, it's not even funny. What was this supposed to be? Having the Overlord be the final villain makes sense on paper, but in performance, just not at all. It just feels like weak writing, and the Overlord's return doesn't feel earned at all. The final battle was way cooler in season 2 than it is in season 16 because of the journey it took us to get there and the true stakes that were involved. In that story, we were cheering for this relationship between father and son. Lloyd needed to save his father, but the Overlord corrupted him. We thought we were going to lose an amazing character and scared of how that would affect Lloyd, the Green Ninja. The Overlord just coming back to say he's going to destroy everything just feels weak, worthless, and just puts him as a rather sad and empty villain.
But you don't have to worry. He won't destroy you.
We'll do that.
Yes. Pythor, Vangelis, Asphira, the Mechanic, and Mr. F. I mean, they're all interesting characters in their own right, but out of all of them, I only believe that one of them actually deserved to be here, and that is King Vangelis. Vangelis has been a part of this operation for quite some time and was actually working closely with Harumi and the Overlord before season 16 ever began.
Unfortunately, we must postpone our negotiations.
Your so-called perfect city runs on the money I pay you for that black market Vengestone.
Fear nothing. My Gekul and Monk's workers will provide every ounce of the Vengestone your Crystal King requires. And if the ninja are destroyed in the process, so be it.
He was also the one responsible for enslaving 2 entire tribes, handling the evil forces of the mountain, and personally delivering the Vengestone to create the Vengestone army. He was responsible for creating the next unstoppable stone army for the Overlord. He's pretty important, and actually one of my favorite villains since season 10. Yes, I liked him better than the Oni by a long shot. He also has some sort of motivation. He supplied the Vengestone in the first place to protect and supply his kingdom and people with riches. After having nowhere to go after his defeat and imprisonment in season 13, the Overlord's call was a familiar and welcome one. Everyone else in this group has no real motivation for fighting the Overlord, and Pythor has every reason not to help the Overlord, and to side with the ninja instead. Don't you think he would have second thoughts after the events in season 4? Besides, his whole thing is that he wants to conquer Ninjago. We saw that in the Ninjago special, Day of the Departed.
When we last met, I decided to help you and your father Garmadon defeat Chen. Do you remember why?
You said something about how if anyone was going to take over the world, you'd rather it be you?
Precisely.
But I don't even know if that's what he really wants anymore. Asphira and the Mechanic are villains we know, but from what I can understand, neither of them had any real connection to Harumi or the Overlord, making it feel like Harumi just picked them up off the street just because they were there. Not earned appearance at all. And Mr. F is just a new Ninjoid model.
Mr. E?
Mr. F. He's the new model.
I mean, if it was the actual Mr. E, maybe, because he had that connection with Harumi, and there's that whole backstory possibility of him actually being Echo Zane, which I thought was really cool, but here he's just a new model, and that seems really weak, and he's probably the most uninteresting person here. Like with the Overlord himself, this Crystal Council seems weak and unearned and really useless at their job as well. I was not scared when these battles were happening. I was not scared of any of them because I didn't feel anything really towards these characters. Again, the ideas seemed great on paper, but the execution of those ideas was poor at best. Besides, if the writers had actually decided to cut out Asphira, Pythor, the Mechanic, and Mr. F, then they could have possibly had more time to focus on just half the villains, or the top 3, the Overlord, King Vangelis, and Harumi. The rest of the group just seems like a waste of space and time, and a real disappointment as well.
Unbelievable! What are we doing here? We don't need his help!
This boy! Lloyd in season 16 is, well, this might be his worst season, at least for me. My biggest problem with him is his unfair standards between Harumi and his father, Garmadon. Harumi's a pretty evil person. At least she used to until this season came along, but despite all evidence, Lloyd won't give up on her. I would usually love this, and it would continue Lloyd's character as someone who never gives up on those who are close to him. However, with his own father, who is actually trying to change for the better, Lloyd gives him no chance and no grace at all. Ever. He flat out hates his father in this season. While conflict is good in this story, and there's a lot of reason for Lloyd to hate Garmadon and for them to be put against each other, it never gets truly resolved. This is supposed to be some kind of final season, but our own main character's story arc remains unfinished, and Garmadon is really trying to change for the better here. But Lloyd won't let him because apparently now he believes that the Oni are incapable of being good.
It means caring. Of course you don't know what it means. You're incapable of compassion. You can't learn how to care. You either care or you don't. You're an Oni. The Oni are incapable of caring. All they do is destroy.
Did you literally forget Mistake?
Since your grandfather was born of both worlds, our mission was to follow him into this realm and turn him to our side. Or destroy him. But he wouldn't turn. My fellow Oni wanted to complete our mission, but I turned on them. And I have helped the first Spinjitzu master ever since.
You're an Oni. The Oni are incapable of caring. All they do is destroy.
I have no idea why Lloyd thinks this way, and the story doesn't tell us either. We just have to accept it. Lloyd never forgives his father for what he did, and even states that his father can never change.
Because I know my father. He's never going to change.
Lloyd, did you forget all of seasons 2, 3, 4, and even 5?
May I have a volunteer?
How about me?
The ultimate battle, round 2.
I'm not here to compete, only to look out for my interests. Let's ship out. I yearn to make the world in my image. I never realized I already had in you. Whatever happens to me, wherever I am, I will always be with you. There comes a time when every boy must become a man. What sort of man is up to him.
The boy has no memory of anything for some reason. He only wants to focus on the evil stuff instead of how good his father really was. What is this? And not holding Harumi to the same standards? For shame. Another story beat that never gets resolved with Lloyd is him embracing his Oni side. He fights it the whole way. Why we haven't seen this side of him before, I have no idea, but he has these powers now, so we just gotta accept it. His father tries to teach him the ways of the Oni, but Lloyd hates him, remember? And has created an entire false story concerning who and what the Oni truly are. All the way to the final battle, Lloyd never accepts that he is in fact part Oni and continually denies that part of himself. So much so that he would rather watch NINJAGO be destroyed than call upon his Oni power. And then, at the end of the final battle, he rubs it in Garmadon's face that he was able to defeat the Overlord, again, without using the Dark Oni powers.
I was helping you achieve your Oni form. I didn't need Oni form. It didn't even work.
It would have, if you hadn't been scared by your own reflection.
Lloyd never understands that just as there must be balance in the world, there must be balance in himself. He can't deny who he is, and burying that part of himself away will only end up hurting him and all those around him. These are lessons that Lloyd needed to learn, but the season wraps up super quickly and gives him no time to actually confront these problems. It's truly infuriating to watch.
So, what do we do now? What we always do. Rebuild.
The season just kind of ends. Like I said before, a lot of the story beats are just kind of forgotten about or don't get a conclusion at all. For example, very small and slight one, what happened to the new ninja? And the list would go on, but we don't have time to talk about those. But there are just so many characters who don't get conclusions to their own stories. Even main characters like Nia, Lloyd, and even Wu. The villains as well. We've been told that the Overlord can't really be defeated with just the power of creation. He goes away for a little while, then once building up all the evil deeds that happened in Ninjago, he comes back. So what? Wu and the others just wait until he resurfaces again? Differing relationships like Garmadon's and Lloyd's, Harumi's and Lloyd's, or even Skylar's and Kai's relationship, nothing actually gets sorted out. The ninja also never have time to work through the trauma they've been through. We see a little bit of it in the earlier episodes, then it all just kind of disappears. Just because Nia returned doesn't mean that all those emotions no longer exist. The ninjas seem to pretend they never existed at all. So many storylines are left wide open without a real or even proposed conclusion to the story. What about all that legal stuff that went on in the beginning? Are we ever going to address that again? No? Really? Okay. Everyone's together now and everyone's happy. Best conclusion ever, I'd say. This was a season of Ninjago. It was supposed to be the finale to an epic story that has followed our main characters throughout their world. But it lacks so much. I thought of so many ways the story could have gone, but not once did I think the outcome would be this disappointing. The lack of any real character growth is stunning, and I will always wonder if Nia's return was really necessary. The multiple death fakeouts in this season is absurd and just annoying. It's just like Disney's new obsession with a stab with a dagger, lightsaber, or anything right through vital organs is nothing. The main characters can survive anything. And it makes it really hard to get invested in the story if you know from the beginning everyone's gonna be alright. Not everyone can come back all the time. But I think Ninjago has a hard time letting characters go. I'm not against bringing characters back who you thought were dead, but you can't do it with every single character. It just really makes it hard to invest in the story. One really weird thing Crystalized does is have so many plot inconsistencies. If you can ignore them, I mean, it's fine, but it's hard when it's so blatantly obvious.
You're the one who needs to get to NGTV Tower and send a distress call to some queen.
Princess Vanya of Shintaro.
Cole, you literally went to her coronation. It had such potential too. I just can't understand what happened. But that leads me to the end of this video. So what did you guys think? If you agree with me, let me know down below. And if you disagree, tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to see all your guys' own opinions down in the comments. If you enjoyed what you heard today, consider clicking the like and subscribe button down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see y'all in my next video.